34 years ago, Burkina Faso's president, Thomas Sankara, was murdered. Only now are his alleged assassins on trial. Had he survived, the arid, landlocked country of more than 20 million people might well have taken a far different path to development. Known for his anti-imperialist stance and simple lifestyle, Sankara remains an icon across Africa. Stickers emblazoned with his face adorn on taxis across West Africa, while across the continent in South Africa, radical opposition leader Julius Malema cites him as one of his inspirations. At age 33, Sankara became the president of the Republic of Upper Volta, presently known as Burkina Faso. He launched social, ecological and economic programs and renamed the country from the French colonial name Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning, land of incorruptible people. Its people were called Burkinabé, upright people. His foreign policies were centered on anti-imperialism and he rejected aid from organizations such as the International Monetary Fund. Sankara welcomed foreign aid from other sources but tried to reduce reliance on aid by boosting domestic revenues and diversifying the sources of assistance. Sankara himself led an austere lifestyle. He reduced his own salary, and that of all public servants. He also banned the use of government chauffeurs and first-class airline tickets. Education was a key priority. While he was in power, the literacy rate increased from 13% in 1983 to 73% in 1987, and he also oversaw a massive national vaccination campaign. He also redistributed land from local chiefs and gave it directly to poor farmers, which led to a huge increase in cotton production. Sankara built 350 schools, roads, railways without foreign aid and banned forced marriages. In order to combat the encroaching desert, Sankara initiated a tree planting program where 10.5 million trees were planted in 15 months. Over 2.5 million children were vaccinated against measles, meningitis, and yellow fever in just 2 weeks. 7,460 government primary health posts were built. For all these achievements, Thomas Sankara refused to have his portraits hung publicly. While some sources say he was murdered by the French, others say he was assassinated by his best friend Blaise Compaoré, who toppled Sankara in a coup in 1987. Thomas Sankara only had $350 in his bank account, a cheap Renault 5 car, 4 bikes, 3 guitars, a refrigerator, and a broken freezer at the time of his death. Blaise Compaoré was found guilty in 2022 for his role in the 1987 assassination of Thomas Sankara, and was sentenced in absentia to life in jail. Unfortunately, after his assassination, much of the gains the Sankara government made socially, environmentally, economically, and politically were quickly reversed. To some Africans, Thomas Sankara is Africa's best president ever. Did you know that a person from Lesotho is called Mosotho? Now citizens of Lesotho are collectively called Basotho. Their native language is Sesotho. The name Lesotho roughly translates as land of the Sotho. Lesotho is a country landlocked as an enclave in South Africa. Didier Drogba was a footballer whose influence expanded far beyond the greens of a football pitch. The marksman did not only spearhead Chelsea's growth into a European elite during his Stamford Bridge reign, but he also remarkably united a nation. On October 5, 2005, Côte d'Ivoire found themselves on the verge of making history, qualifying for the World Cup for the first time. Didier Drogba had some of Ivory Coast's best footballing talents of all time as his national team colleague during the 2006 World Cup qualifiers. Kolo Touré, Emmanuel Aboué, and Didier Zakora all played in the same team. These players had become prominent figures overseas and represented a golden generation of Ivorian football. Ivory Coast faced Sudan in their final qualification match. A win over the hosts in Omdurman, Sudan would take them to the promised land that is the World Cup. The Ivory Coast team finished the game with a 2-1 win. Therefore, they confirmed their participation in the World Cup finals in Germany the next year. But, the domestic unrest in Ivory Coast somewhat marred the celebration of such an emphatic achievement. At that time, Ivory Coast was going through a civil war and the country was submerged in total chaos. This conflict effectively divided the country into two factions, the government-controlled North and the rebel-influenced South. Thousands of lives were lost as the conflict stretched on. After the historic win against Sudan, the broadcast crew entered the Ivory Coast dressing room to capture their celebratory moments. Drogba took upon this opportunity and addressed his fellow countrymen on the camera. Here's what the Chelsea legend had to say. Men and women of Ivory Coast, from the north, south, centre, and west, we proved today that all Ivorians can coexist and play together with a shared aim, to qualify for the World Cup. We promised you that the celebrations would unite the people. Today we beg you on our knees. The one country in Africa with so many riches must not descend into war. Please lay down your weapons and hold elections. We want to have fun, so stop firing your guns. Drogba's urge for national solidarity proved fruitful later on. Both parties sat at the table for negotiating their terms. Finally, they agreed on signing a ceasefire. This is Africa Echo. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, goodbye.